Welcome to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise, and I'm super excited to be here because I do have a lot of interesting things to be talking to you about. So I'm super excited to be here. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and I'll be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. So, like I said, it is a beautiful Thursday. We have a lot to be talking about, and there's a lot of interesting things that we need to talk about as well. So make sure you stay tuned because I would absolutely love to keep you company for the next 3 hours. I would absolutely love to hear everything that you have to say, whether it's your questions, opinions, thoughts, experiences, whatever it is. Make sure you stay tuned to Relax Radio because I have a lot to share with you. Okay, so make sure you do that. I'm very excited to be here and have interesting conversation with you because we have a lot of interesting things to be talking about. So make sure you stay tuned, right? But before I get into our conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can be in touch with us. All you need to do is just follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And that way you can make sure you're updated, you're informed about everything that is going on, not only here in the United Kingdom, but also all around the world as well. So make sure you stay tuned because I do have a lot of interesting things to be talking to you about as well. And don't forget to actually download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And that way you can join the conversation any time of the day, anywhere in the world. And that is absolutely amazing. And you know why I'm saying that? It's because we're stuck in the pandemic, right? We're all stuck in lockdown. And obviously, the one thing that we want is conversation. And what better way is there for us to actually have conversation than joining in to Relax Radio because we always have conversation for you in whatever topic that you're interested in. So regardless of whether it's health, sports, entertainment, technology, whatever it is, we will be talking about all of it. So make sure you stay tuned, okay? But right now, let's actually get into this conversation because I have to talk to you about something very important. And obviously, I'm going to talk to you about the rise of the Vaxinista. Okay, now that's like the newest trend that is currently happening all around the world, and obviously that's why that is something we need to talk about as well. Okay, so to get into this conversation about the Vaccinista, to get into this conversation about what exactly is a Vaccinista, let's get into it right now. Okay, so this summer's trend is not actually a dish or a dress or all these fun TikTok trends that were there last summer. Well, that's not what it is right now. It's not a fun trend of a dish or a dress or a transition video, whatever it is. That is not what the trend is. The newest trend is in fact a clean bill of health that is posted on social media. Now obviously, some of us are very lucky, some of us got vaccinated, some of us didn't get vaccinated. And there is a lot of inequality, there's a lot of issues when it comes to vaccination, so we will be talking about all of that. But right now I have to tell you about the biggest trend, that is the trend of the vaccinistas. Okay, so, to put it quite simply, a vaccinista is in fact a combination of a fashionista and a vaccine. So, that is someone who not only has had both jabs of the vaccine, but actually wants to broadcast it via vaccine selfies, cards, and even merchandise. Come on, it's fun to get merchandise, especially after you get vaccinated. Like, obviously, that's something I would do as well, okay? So that is something fun to do. That is very interesting. And also, you can show off the fact that you got vaccinated, right? But calm down because there is a lot of issues with that as well. But make sure you stay tuned because we will be talking about all of that. We will be talking about the rise of the vaccinista, why people are so obsessed with all these merchandise when it comes to being vaccinated and everything. We will be talking about all of that, okay? And before I actually head in deeper into this conversation, I want to quickly remind you that you can in fact text us on 07852 473 473, and you can be a part of this conversation. If you're one of these people, text me. I want to share your experience. I want to let everyone who's listening in know about everything that's going on. So make sure you do that. But right now, let's actually get into this conversation about, being a vaccinista, what exactly it is and what it means. Okay, so now there's in fact been an interest in pharmaceutical merge, and it has in fact reached a new strange frontier. Okay, because it's used pharma memorabilia. And what this is basically, if you go on eBay, you can find old mementos that are branded with Pfizer or even AstraZeneca logos, and they're selling for tens and hundreds of pounds. Okay, what I don't understand is, here's the thing, it's okay to get a few things, it's okay to maybe have a badge that says I got vaccinated and whatnot, but what I don't understand is, come on, there's so many people suffering around the world, not just here in the United Kingdom, not just in the United States, but in fact all over the world. There's so many different people suffering because they haven't been able to get the vaccine and all of that, right? So if we have money, if we can actually donate money, then why are we spending money on, useless merchandise? It's not like, for me, in my opinion, I don't see any purpose of getting merchandise for the fact that you're vaccinated. Okay, because I would very much rather spend that money on helping someone else who is finding it hard to get the vaccination. Or, I would even donate it to all these charities and NGOs all around the world so that it can help them to actually purchase aid, vaccines and everything that is needed for much poorer countries. So again, that's just my opinion. Maybe you have a different opinion, but that's what I want to hear it on Relax Radio. So make sure you text me on 078 You can even call me on that number and let me know about your opinion, because I really, really want to know what your opinion is. Okay, so make sure you do that. But let's get into this conversation now. So this interest in pharmaceutical merge actually has now reached this new strange frontier, like I said, of pharma memorabilia. And on eBay, you have all these different mementos that has logos of Pfizer and AstraZeneca, and they're actually selling for quite a huge price. Now, AstraZeneca paperweights and ballpoint pens are actually going for £150 and £50 respectively. So the paperweights are £150 and the ballpoint pens are £50 as well. I don't understand why you would buy a ballpoint pen for £50. I mean, that's ridiculous. But if you have the money, cool. I mean, I'm not judging, okay? And now there have also been bids for a Pfizer lab coat that began at £106, which was basically a pre-loved Pfizer denim shirt at £100, and a Disneyland Pfizer conference t-shirt at £144. Okay, now newspapers from the day the vaccine was announced are also being sold for more than £40. So why is it that people are so interested? Why is it that people are so obsessed with purchasing pandemic merchandise? Why is it that people are so obsessed with getting merchandise related to being vaccinated? Now, that's obviously a very obvious question that all of us have, right? Like, why would you possibly be interested in buying all of this when so many people around the world are dying? And why would you rather just buy all of this instead of donating to all those people, donating to all these charities and NGOs that are actively trying to help these people, right? And come on, that's a question I've had as well, because it just makes no sense to me. Just because your money, I mean, just because you're rich and you have a lot of money to use, that doesn't mean that you have to use it and spend it on unnecessary things when you can help so many other people around who are struggling, right? But again, that's a whole different question of perspective. That's a whole different question of what you want to do with your money. So we will get into that, and to get to keep talking about why exactly people want to do this. So like I was telling you, these memorabilia are being sold for outrageous amounts. Come on, you would definitely, I mean, I don't know about you, but I would definitely never spend £50 on a ballpoint pen that had either a Pfizer or even an AstraZeneca logo. Like, no, I have the injection already. I definitely don't need a ballpoint pen as well. Like, what is the purpose of that? Now, like I said, newspapers as well from the day the vaccine was announced are also being sold. So what exactly is the purpose of this? Why are people so interested in things like this? Now, make sure you stay tuned because we will be talking about all of that later on. But right now, we're talking about all these things that people are buying. Okay, so one seller of a Pfizer branded pen actually told actually said in an interview to the Guardian that he had listed the item years ago, but no one was interested. But this time, about 20 people have been in touch with him asking to buy it now rather than bid on the site. Now, eBay was actually unable to source actual data due to the niche nature of the themed items. Okay, and I have to say it's very, very interesting as well. I mean, what we can see through this is the fact that a lot of people's mindsets, a lot of people's perspectives actually change when we're going through situations like a pandemic. And because of things like that, you tend to actually view things differently. You tend to see things differently, and that is why people are in fact purchasing all of this memorabilia. That is why people are purchasing these kind of things to keep as keepsakes basically. Now, what kind of mentality or what kind of situation we're seeing right now is basically like fans after a gig. Okay, people are broadcasting being vaccinated with different branded merchandise, and while vintage from merch is actually going for very high prices on eBay. So that is something to definitely think about. That is something to talk about as well, because like I said, there's so many other different problems in the world, right? And especially if you have that kind of money, then if that was me, I would definitely donate it to people who needed it. Because this pandemic, even though we are slowly getting rid of it, even though things are slowly going back to normal for us, that's not the case with everyone else around the world, right? Things are actually quite bad for them. So if you take a lot of Asian countries like India, if you take countries like Sri Lanka, all these countries are in fact suffering because of the pandemic. So given the fact that things are slowly getting back to normal right here in the United Kingdom, if that was me, I would have definitely used that money to help all of these people in other countries. So for me, it's quite a ridiculous question as to why people are buying all this merch, why people are investing their money in things like this. But I guess that's just what people do. Maybe this is their way of coping up with the pandemic. Maybe that's the way. But again, like I said, it's different for different people. We all have different opinions about it, and that's why I want to hear your opinion as well. So make sure you text me on 078 because right here on Relax Radio, we're all about the different opinions. Okay, we want to hear everything that you're thinking. We want to hear everything that you know as well. Whether it's your experience, if you've been in this situation, make sure to text me. Make sure to text or even comment on our live videos, on our feeds, and that way we can actually interact with you. So make sure you do that. But right now, we're actually going to head into a small break, and I'll be back soon after to keep talking to you about the rise of the Vaxinista.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? But when you are basically going out and during a day, you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. You buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true, the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods, they're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK. We've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? Because in a public company where the stock is traded openly on the stock exchange, the value of that stock is driven by supply and demand, it's driven by emotion, it's driven by news, it's driven by quite a lot of variables over and above the actual accounting or total net worth of that company. I mean, we've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? And the company may still have value. It may still be doing quite a good thing.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much has changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he'd say to me, "You had one to forget." That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it." And that was it. So I dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relaks Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and I'll be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. because I do have a lot of interesting things to talk to you about. I do have a lot of fantastic things to tell you about as well. So make sure you stay tuned because we have some exciting conversation for you right here on Relaks Radio. Now I want to quickly remind you that you can be a part of the show. All you have to do is just text me on 078-52473-473, and that way you can actually be a part of this show because I'm so excited to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences. Share with me so we can share with everyone else who's listening in as well, and we can have a very interactive and interesting conversation about the rise of pandemic merchandise. Okay, so make sure you do that. And I also want to quickly remind you that you can in fact go and follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and that way you can always stay updated and informed about everything that is happening all over the world, not just here in the United Kingdom, but all over the world. Okay, So make sure you do that, because we do have a lot of very, very interesting things to share with you. We have a lot of interesting things to tell you as well. So make sure you do that. Okay. Now let's get back into the conversation. We were talking about pandemic merchandise. We were talking about how people are spending outrageous amounts of money on pandemic merchandise and why they feel the need to do this. Okay. So right now, let's actually talk about that why are people so obsessed with buying pandemic memoranda? Why do they want to spend so much of money to buy things like this, and what is the importance of it? Okay, we'll get into that conversation right now, because it's very, very interesting, and it's something we definitely need to talk about as well. Okay. Now, the pandemic has in fact sent us into this frenzy of collecting, but obviously not for the quite obvious reasons that you'd normally think of. Okay, and this was actually said by Dr. Dimitris, who's a consumer and business psychologist at UCL. Now, people think these items might be valuable in 10 years' time. That's one of the reasons they buy it, but they're also buying them as a way of taking control or even marking what has been a very difficult situation. Now, this is why people are buying a lot of pandemic memorabilia, right? They think, or they see it as a way of taking control and marking what has been a very, very difficult situation. And none of us are going to disagree with that, right? The pandemic has, in fact, been a very difficult situation for a lot of us, not just me and you. We have lost our job, some of us have lost our jobs, we've lost friends, we've lost family. It's been very stressful. In addition to all that loss, we've also had to deal with a lot of other things. So obviously it's gotten very, very stressful and difficult for all of us as well. Now, merchandise, and in particular slogan tees and pins, have been an expression of its wearers' values for years. Okay, this is not the first time we're seeing people buying merchandise, and we know that merchandise does in fact have some sort of value to its wearer. There's a reason all these people wear pandemic merchandise, because it has a significant value to all of them. Now, vaccine merch actually serves a very particular purpose. At a time of wearing your political values on your sleeve, it actually gives you a physical form to a historic moment that would otherwise be forgotten. Perhaps you should probably save your vaccine sticker, because that is obviously going to remind you of a time when things were much difficult. It's going to remind you of a very, very historic moment for everyone who is living in the 21st century. Obviously, the pandemic has been a very significant historic moment for all of us as well. And I think in another way you can see it is simply the fact that the next time you see this vaccine sticker, or you see your vaccine badge, or whatever it is, whatever merchandise that you purchase, the next time you see it, you're obviously going to think of it as a reminder of how strong you are. Like, I got through this pandemic. I can get through much worse things. We all got through the pandemic, or we're in the process of getting through the pandemic, but that's what it means. We have managed to go through all of those terrible things that we had to go through, and we're here right now. We're doing well. We're slowly starting to adjust to everything, and in a few more months, maybe everything will be back to normal. And that, in fact, is a reminder to ourselves that we got over something that was difficult. We got over something that was hard, and we are changed people. But what is important is that we didn't give up. We kept going. We never ever gave up. So again, it is a reminder to you of how strong you are. And I think that's very, very that's very, very helpful as well. Now, like punters who actually buy band merchandise after a concert, it's sort of a way of saying, I was there. I was there in that historic moment. I was there when it happened. I was a part of it. So what people are doing is people are trying to be a part of that conversation. Wearing something is honestly not just about fashion, it's a reflection of the situation. And in this instance, it's even taking a pro-vaccination position. Now, I don't know if you remember, but sometime back we actually spoke a lot about all these conspiracy theories that are there with regard to the pandemic. When it what we were talking about when we were or the conspiracy theories that are there against vaccination, the anti-vax movement. We spoke about all of that, right? And in a day and age where people are so hesitant to get the vaccine, where people are so hesitant to actually go and get that jab for their own safety, for their own protection. This in a way sort of reinforces the fact that you should go get the jab. You should go get vaccinated because it's definitely going to help you, and that's what it's definitely doing right now as well, right? It's helping all of these people be a part of a historic moment. It's helping all these people feel like they're included in the conversation, feel like they're important to this conversation, while it also serves as a reflection of the fact that you are a part of this huge historical moment. You were a part of things when the world completely changed, and you were also so strong because you got through it. And we're here now. We're dealing with stuff so much better than we were when the pandemic initially happened. And that is just a reminder of the fact that we got through the worst. Okay, so that is something to be proud of, definitely, and I'm not saying no to that. Now, like I said, it's actually one way to explain why the pandemic has been tough on retail but a banner year for merchandise. Because many of the key moments were, in fact, translated into shoppable memories. For example, if you take the United Kingdom, or rather the United States, if you take America, they've had quite a lot of significant historical events, right? Where there was the riots in the Capitol, and democracy almost failed, and this whole the whole situation that was there with Trump and everything. So obviously, for people, like for example, some people in the United States, it's been a very significant year. It's been a very memorable year as well. So obviously, it's a way of remembering those things. It's a way of translating many of those key memories into very, very shoppable mementos. Okay, now, like I said, to go back to the USA, if from the lockdown birthday cards to Fauci caps, in reference, who's obviously, the US immunologist, Dr. Anthony Fauci, while and some companies that were actually forced to close their shops turned to making ephemera to cover overheads. And while others actually mocked up NHS t-shirts for more altruistic reasons. So obviously, regardless of wherever it is in the world, in America, it was all about lockdown birthday cards and those caps, whereas here it was, the NHS t-shirts. Wherever it is, a lot of people have been taking this merchandise. And come on, every time I am on all these online shopping sites, when I'm looking up for stuff, or when I'm just trying to figure out what I will eventually order. Sometimes I like to stare at things for a long time until I get fed up of it, and then I don't want it anymore. It's a great way to save money, but that's what I do. So a lot of the times when I'm on these online shopping apps, or when I'm on these online digital online shopping websites as well, there is a lot of vaccine merchandise that I've seen, whether it's little badges or whether it's t-shirts or caps, whatever it is, they do have a lot of it, and people do buy a lot of it as well. So obviously, I mean, the supply exists because of the demand, right? I mean, there has to be a demand for a supply, otherwise it doesn't exist. So basically, you need to understand that the reason people still keep producing these things is also because of the fact that people are asking for it, people want it, so that's why it is there. Now, this also actually explains why thousands of people have jumped on the bandwagon. And, small businesses out there, like, for example, very small, not a very small, but rather small business shopping platform is Etsy, right? It has actually thrown up more than 25,000 searches for slogan t shirts, pins, badges, mugs, bucket hats, wine labels, banners, and even bumper stickers associated with the vaccine. Okay, I absolutely love bucket hats, and that's why I got very excited when I said it. Like, I love bucket hats, and some pieces have a much, much more general theme as well. For example, the Culturatis Club's bucket hats actually say vaccinated. Now, others stipulate the pharmaceutical company that offered the jab with a tongue-in-cheek irony. So obviously, there is a lot of profit as well that a lot of other people are earning because of this as well. So I guess in a way, this is probably another way to combat how our economy has been dealing with is, how our economy has been struggling as well. Obviously, we've been in recession, GDP, everything has fallen. So obviously, because of that, I guess this, in a way, in itself is a way in which you can actually try to build up that economy. Now, if a lot of people are buying pandemic merchandise, if a lot of people are investing in pandemic merchandise, then that means that they're interested in it. That means that there is a demand for it. So why not supply for it and help, help yourselves, help your communities, help your business, and even the economy as well. And I think that's a great way to go about it. But also, when you look at it in the perspective of privilege, we also can see a lot of a lot of cons of it when we're actually looking at it, right? Because the fact that a lot of people have gotten both the jobs, can afford all of this pandemic merchandise, while there are other people in other countries who are dying because of the pandemic, again, just sort of makes that inequality, makes that gap very, very more it just makes it much, much more distinctive. So I think it's very important to focus that on that as well, because you know while something good happens, something bad happens as well. Things need to balance. That's how the world works, right? So again, in a way, it's interesting to look at this different standpoints, different opinions and perspectives about it as well. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you text me on 07852473473, because I would absolutely love to hear your opinions. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to know what you're thinking about this. Share it with me so I can share it with everyone else who's listening in as well. But right now, let's actually head into a small break, because I will be back to talk about the rise of the Vaxinista and even pandemic merchandise.
One of the easiest ways to increase your net worth is to ensure that you have higher cash flows. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to not buy things on hire purchase, not buy things over months and months because you can't afford them now, but you want it. It's kind of that delayed gratification. Rather than buy that couch, that car, that stereo, that computer, whatever item, and pay it off over 12, 24, 36 months at an interest rate, rather invest that money, make do with what you've got, and then after 12, 24, 36 months, take the money that you've now invested and buy that good. An asset could be anything that appreciates or reduces a tax bill. So it could still be a liability, but it reduces their tax bill. And I'm not going to go into the technicalities because that's out of our remit here. However, for our use or our purpose, what we are talking for the listeners here is, I would put this definition of an asset forward. An asset is anything that increases your income. Anything.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? When you are basically going out and during a day, if you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. If you buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true, the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods. They're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if that, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise. I'll be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. And I do have a lot of interesting things to talk to you about. So make sure you stay tuned because, like I said, we have a lot of fun and interesting things to be talking about. Now, what we're talking about right now is the rise of the Vaxinista. We're talking about how there has been a huge increase in terms of the demand for pandemic merchandise and what exactly that means and why it's so important that we have this conversation, why it's so important that we discuss this as well. Okay, because like I said, there's so many different reasons as to why it's important. There's so many different reasons as to why people are purchasing pandemic merchandise as well. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, I want to quickly remind you that you can be a part of this conversation, you can be a part of this show. All you need to do is just text me on 078 Share your thoughts, share your opinions, because I would absolutely love to hear it. I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. So make sure you share it with me, okay? I want to share with everyone who's listening in as well. So make sure you do that. Now, also, don't forget to text us or, don't forget to follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can always go and find the latest content. You can keep yourself updated. You can always make sure that you know what's happening all around the world. And that is only if you tune into Relax Radio, which is another great reason as to why you should download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So make sure you download that as well, because it's definitely going to help you stay updated. It's definitely going to help you be a part of this conversation anytime of the day, anywhere you want. Okay. So make sure you do that. But right now, let's get back into this conversation. Let's get back into why it's so important as to why people should or rather as to why people are buying all of this pandemic merchandise, what it means and why it's important. Okay, now initially when this first started out, it was actually mostly spawned as a fun way to encourage everyone to get vaccinated, and this was actually said by Posh and Loom, who are basically an Etsy seller. And what they did was they sold unisex t-shirts that list the companies Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson in a list. Okay, now I don't know if you've seen the t-shirt, but it just says Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, and it is a pretty cool t-shirt, but that is what it is. Now the names are not in fact in order of the vaccine preference. They just kind of flow together, and they kind of made this cool design, and that's what Posh and Loom, or a spokesperson for Posh and Loom, actually said. Now Etsy, which has about 10 million users worldwide, was actually aware of the trend, but they were unable to share UK sales figures because it is relatively new here. Now the United Kingdom, in fact, began its vaccine campaign with the Pfizer and the BioNTech jab in December before introducing the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine in January. Okay, so we first started out with the Pfizer jab in December, and then in January we introduced the AstraZeneca. So it has been relatively new, and that's why Etsy has in fact been unable to provide us with the sales figures in the United Kingdom. Now, in April, Moderna was in fact introduced, and this week Pfizer and BioNTech was authorized to be given to over 12. So again, in terms of vaccination, in terms of the progress we're making, due to vaccination, from vaccination, we're actually doing pretty well, because we're going on a very we're going on a consistent path. We're making sure people are getting vaccinated, we're making sure that people are safe, and we're making sure that they get their vaccines. So I think it's something very positive, something you definitely can look forward to, because everyone's getting vaccinated. And you know what that means? It means that things are slowly getting back to normal, which means in a few more months we should all be able to go back to living our lives the way we did before the pandemic. And honestly, I'm so excited for that, because I have to tell you, I absolutely missed living the way I used to. Okay, being stuck at home hasn't been fun. I've in fact become an introvert, and I have to say, I used to be an extrovert. I used to love hanging out with people. I used to love meeting new people and making new friends. I just like staying at home now, and I need to get rid of that. There's nothing bad in that, but I just need to go out and socialize. I definitely need to do that. So, like I said, I'm very, very excited to get back into the world. I'm very excited to get back to how things were, because it's interesting. It's fun to live that kind of life, right? So, can't wait for everything to go back to normal. and I was just saying how this week, or rather, this week they in fact just approved the Pfizer and the BioNTech vaccines to be given to over 12s. Now, before the pandemic, not many people had heard of Pfizer, says one of the former U.S. Says one of the former U.S. Pfizer employees who wishes obviously to stay anonymous, but he said that not a lot of people had heard of Pfizer, and this so-called entry of pharmaceutical companies into the everyday has been marked by people keen to advertise their immunity status. Okay, come on. If you were in the middle of a pandemic, if you couldn't do things the way you used to do, then obviously you would want to advertise the fact that you're immune, right? You would want to advertise the fact that, oh my gosh, look, I can finally go back to how I was living my life. I am not completely immune, but obviously I have extra protection. I have added immunity to make sure that if I do get the disease, it's not going to be as bad as it would be if I don't get the vaccine. Okay, so obviously it's very, very important that it's important that we talk about it's important that we talk about how it in fact sort of in a way it makes sure, or it incentivizes people to go get the vaccine. It sort of gives out this positive message that getting vaccinated is cool. Make sure you go do it, because it's definitely going to help you. And I know it's easier said than done, especially if you live in a community of you, or if you're very skeptical about getting the vaccine, then it's very, very important that we keep trying to make people aware of the fact that we need to get vaccinated. Okay, because it's just everything at the start, like it's okay to be scared. We had this conversation some time back as well. It's okay to be scared. To it's okay to have doubts and uncertainties about getting vaccinated, but the truth of the matter is it's good to get all those doubts and uncertainties answered. Okay, because it's not like there isn't enough information out there. It's not like there aren't people who are willing to help you get that information, because in fact, if you go on Google, if you even ask your local doctor, they will definitely help you, right? No one is refusing to help you. So if you have any of those doubts, if you have any of those uncertainties, just go and ask someone who actually knows about how it works, who knows about how it happens. So make sure you go ask them, because they're definitely going to help you. They're definitely going to make you much more aware, and they're definitely going to make sure that you can clarify all of those doubts and uncertainties. So if you haven't gotten the vaccine yet, go get it. But also make sure, if you have any people who are doubtful of getting the vaccine, if you have friends, if you have family, if you know people also who are very doubtful about getting the vaccine, make sure to convince them that it's okay, because it's definitely going to help them. It's going to make sure, or that is going to make sure that they have additional protection to protect them from the pandemic. So that's a reason as to why you should get the vaccine. And speaking of vaccines, we were just talking about how there is all these memorabilia because of the pandemic, vaccine memorabilia, even pandemic memorabilia, and everyone's obsessed with it. Like that's what everyone is talking about. And it's very, very important that we that people it's very important we try to understand why people do that. Right now, like I said, a lot of us can have different opinions about it. I definitely have a completely different opinion about it, but I'm trying to understand the thought process. I'm trying to understand as to why people actually do this. And like I said, it's the way people want to keep track of historical events. It's the way people want to keep track of all the significant things that happened, that actually happened here in the United Kingdom. Because like I said, there were so many different things that happened this year. The pandemic, all these 101 different things that happened, all these adjustments that we had to make, all these changes that we had to make, and they were in fact quite scary. So obviously, when we're talking about how we had to adjust all of those changes, people want to it's people's way of taking control. It's people's way of trying to gain control and trying to control some of the things that they couldn't control, which was in fact a very, very difficult situation as well. So this is their way of controlling it. This is just their way of trying to adapt, of trying to change and come to terms with everything that is going on in the world. So, like I said, a lot of people hadn't heard of all these vaccination companies or even pharmaceutical companies before the pandemic. And obviously, with the pandemic, all these pharmaceutical companies got more recognition. They were sought. People were keen about them because people were keen on getting vaccinated as well. And it has, in our everyday life right now, we use words like Pfizer, we use words like AstraZeneca, we use the word vaccine. We use a lot of these words to make us aware about everything that is going on. So, like I said, again, this is just people adapting to the different changes, to the different things that is happening in the world. So it's a very important conversation to be had, because we are now, seeing how much vaccination has changed the world. We're seeing how vaccination is slowly bringing life back to normal for all of us. And I think that's something to be happy about. That is definitely something to be excited about as well. But now we need to keep in mind that we're talking about how there has been a rise in this trend of pandemic merchandise, this rise in the trend of the Vaxinista. But this trend is not a trend without controversy. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this trend as well. And it is important that we talk about it. We will be talking about it as well in a few more minutes, because this is a trend with controversy. And I think this is all trends in general. Every time there's a trend, there's positives about it, there's controversy about it, and that's just how it is. That's just the way things work around here. And I think that's just something we need to get adjusted to as well. So, like I said, it's not a trend without controversy, and many of the secondhand pieces are, in fact, keepsakes from the sort of events sponsored by the US pharmaceutical companies that are, in fact, attracting more scrutiny following Obamacare's Sunshine Act, okay, which basically demanded the transparency of financial relationships between healthcare providers and pharmaceutical manufacturers. So, there is a lot of controversy regarding that as well, and we will be getting into all of that. But before we do that, I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear your thoughts, because right here on Relax Radio, we're all about your thoughts, we're all about your opinions. So we definitely want to know everything that you think, everything that you want to know as well. So make sure you do that. Just text me on 07852473473, because right now we're going to head into a small break, so that gives you enough and more time to text me your thoughts, your opinions, and share it with me.
One of the easiest ways to increase your net worth is to ensure that you have higher cash flows. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to not buy things on hire purchase, not buy things over months and months because you can't afford them now, but you want it. It's kind of that delayed gratification. Rather than buy that couch, that car, that stereo, that computer, whatever item, and pay it off over 12, 24, 36 months at an interest rate, rather invest that money, make do with what you've got, and then after 12, 24, 36 months, take the money that you've now invested and buy that good. An asset could be anything that appreciates or reduces a tax bill. So it could still be a liability, but it reduces their tax bill. And I'm not going to go into the technicalities because that's out of our remit here. However, for our use or our purpose, what we are talking for the listeners here is I would put this definition of an asset forward. An asset is anything that increases your income. Anything.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? When you are basically going out and during a day, if you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. If you buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true that the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods. They're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends, and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if that, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and I will be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. But don't worry, because I have a lot of interesting conversation to keep you company with all the way until 9 a.m. Okay, and that's why I'm very very excited to be here, because we have a lot of interesting things to be talking about. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you text me on 07852473473. Share your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences, your whatever it is that you want to share with us. Make sure you do that, because right here at Relax Radio, we care about your opinions, we care about your thoughts, and we want to hear what you have to say. Okay, because this show, it's all about you, it's about what you want to hear. So make sure you do that. But also, I want to quickly remind you that you can in fact follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And that way you can always make sure that you're a part of this conversation. You can make sure you are updated and you are informed about everything that happens in the United Kingdom, in all around the world as well, and also right here on Relax Radio. Okay, so make sure you do that, because that is in fact the best way to stay updated. It is in fact the best way to keep yourself updated about everything that is happening all around the world. So make sure you do that. But right now, let's actually get back into the conversation that you're very very excited to hear about, obviously, because it's the rise of the Vaxinista, and that's what we all are this summer. It's not hot girl summer, it's basically hot Vaxinista summer. That is what it is. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. But if you want to keep yourself occupied with all this conversation, if you want to be a part of this conversation much more, if you constantly feel the need to listen to this conversation, make sure you download an app which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, so you can listen in from your Android device and even your iOS device. Okay, and no matter where you're in the world, no matter what time of the day it is, you can always listen to us. So make sure you do that. Now, getting back into this conversation, according to Slate, which is this vaccines, which is basically a vaccine-specific merch that is worn by so-called Pfizer files, it also risks triggering vaccine hesitancy relating to other jabs. Okay, and this particularly comes at a time when other vaccines are suffering a PR crisis due to this rare blood clots that are associated with them. So you know what I'm referring to, right? Because there has been a lot of vaccine hesitancy with regards to some of these vaccines that are currently there, especially if it's a vaccine like AstraZeneca, if it's a vaccine like that, because a lot of people are hesitant about getting that vaccine because of all the assumptions, or even some of the information or evidence that they found about it. And when it comes to blood clots, that is rarely there, but it is still there in the AstraZeneca. And because of that, because you're constantly wearing these brands that you got vaccinated from. So for example, if you got vaccinated through the Pfizer jabs, then you would wear a t-shirt that says Pfizer, or you would have a pin that says Pfizer. Whatever it is, whatever kind of merchandise that you're wearing, it would essentially tell everyone what kind of vaccine you got, right? So what happens then is it in fact actually promotes this form of vaccine hesitancy, where people are hesitant to get other vaccines other than Pfizer. So people are hesitant to get AstraZeneca because of all the blood clots that have been reported from AstraZeneca. So that is one of the biggest problems we have right now, because we really need to make sure people are vaccinated as much as possible, right? And why this is important is because of the fact that people need to be vaccinated to make sure that they have better protection from the virus, that to make sure that they have, added immunity if they ever contract coronavirus, right? But obviously, if there is going to be vaccine hesitancy, what that means is people are not going to want to get vaccinated if it's not Pfizer. People will want to choose whatever vaccine they want to get vaccinated from, right? But what's wrong with that, or the problem we have with that right now, is we're not in a position to actually ask for what vaccine we want, right? Especially because there is a shortage of vaccines, not only here but also all around the world as well. Especially when it comes to Pfizer, because there's so many other countries as well that want Pfizer, that want to purchase Pfizer. We are in fact having, a vaccine shortage. So in those instances, we don't really have an option. We don't really have the choice to choose what vaccine we want. Now, in a 2018 report on vaccine imagery, the John Hopkins University found that images are especially important in communications related to vaccination. An area of public health with proponents and opponents of the advocated behavior. So obviously, we understand that, regardless of whether it's vaccinations, a lot of other things in the world, advertising, whatever it is, a lot of those things in the world actually are very important because of the way it's presented to society, right? So obviously we understand that when it comes to the way things are viewed, when it comes to these images that are published online with regard to these things we consume, the things we purchase and whatnot, that in fact influences the consumers. So that's the same thing with the vaccines as well. Images, the way it's advertised, the way people talk about it is in fact very, very important to make sure that to make sure that people will get the vaccine, right? And right now what we're currently seeing is these images in fact have a weight. Now, Harriet Cosham, who's a spokesperson for the Pfizer in the United Kingdom, said that the company in fact in no way endorses any of the products, right? In no way do they endorse any of the merchandise. And she did acknowledge, though, that this was the first time that many people had heard of Pfizer right here in the United Kingdom. Now, in some cases, it also showed that if you had the vaccine via your if you had the vaccine, your T-shirt in fact just simply breeds resentment. Now, the best example I can give you of this is this contractor from London called Robbie, who actually recently got vaccinated, and he uploaded this vaccinate. He uploaded a picture of his vaccinated T-shirt to Instagram after getting the jab because his girlfriend bought it for me, and obviously, it was meant to be funny. But a lot of people actually reacted quite negatively to that. A lot of people said that he was showing it off, and that you know it was very insensitive, especially in a year when a lot of people had to deal with a lot of terrible things. A lot of people had to deal with a lot of traumatic incidents. So because of that, a lot of people didn't appreciate the fact that he thought it was funny and that he got vaccinated and whatnot. But obviously he later deleted the post, but he says that he still wears a t-shirt from time to time, because it's a gift and all of that. But then we have this other question, right? Why were people so enraged? Why were people so angry at the fact that he posted it? And I think that actually comes down to this whole problem of vaccine inequality. It comes down to the whole problem of the loss that we suffered and how much of suffering that we all had to go through, because that's what it is, right? Because of all the suffering that we had to go through, because of all that, because of the inequality in the world, also with regard to vaccines, a lot of people are not necessarily don't necessarily find it funny as well. Especially, look, if you're someone from a country that hasn't had the best of vaccines, or when it comes to how much of your population has been vaccinated, obviously you're not going to find it funny. In fact, you're going to find it annoying, right? Like, why would you want to show that off? Why would you want to, boast about the fact that you got vaccinated, and boast about the fact that you're getting a lot of useless memorabilia, while there are so many people in so many other different countries that are dying because of the fact that they haven't got vaccinated or that they can't afford vaccines? So obviously that also comes into play, because at that point it just seems like they're showing off their privilege. They're just showing off the fact that, look, I live in a much developed country, I can definitely afford vaccines, unlike you. And I think, that mindset again is understandable as well, because you are promoting that mindset. You're in fact promoting that idea that, look, we're from a rich country, we got vaccinated, so it's something to enjoy, it's something to be happy about, right? And look, here's the thing though, this again is a very controversial, it's basically two sides of the coin, right? Different people have different opinions about it. And you know what, people are allowed to have opinions, so that's all good, and everyone can have their own opinion. And the fact of the matter is, when we're talking about opinions, when we're talking about people and what they have to say, obviously, a lot of people are going to, I mean, a few, or rather, some people are going to find it funny, some people are going to be mad about it, but that's just how it is. I think that's just how it works. But also, in another way, it just goes to show how much of inequality there is in the world, especially when it comes to vaccines, especially when it comes to instances or situations when people are suffering. There is in fact a lot of inequality, and in terms of privilege as well. A lot of people out here, especially in countries like the United States, in countries like the United Kingdom, and in quite a number of other European countries as well, are much more privileged than people from other countries. So again, it makes you have different thought points, there's different perspectives of it. But one thing's for sure, it's just that there's a lot of people who are purchasing pandemic memorabilia. There's a lot of people who are keeping these mementos because they are in fact significant of the historical events that took place right here in on our planet, okay, in the 21st century, all the change that took place. So all of that is what is currently happening, and that is why that is why it's an important and interesting conversation to have, because through this we're actually going to understand the way people see things, the way people perceive things as well. Now make sure you stay tuned, because I'm going to be back in a few minutes to talk to you about whether it's time to give up caffeine, okay, because there is a lot of issues with it, there's also a lot of benefits with it. But make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to find out everything you need to know and I need to know about caffeine.